broken apart by such violence. We ask that your spirit of love and healing will surround all of those affected. As we gather tonight, no matter the issues we face, let us be willing to work together for the common good of our neighbors. Let us pray for our leaders that they might know and use wisdom and knowledge and compassion as they make decisions for all citizens, but especially those who are in need, those who lack economic status, and those who do not have power or authority that others may possess. Let us be a community that practices not just words, but also actions of justice and compassion. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Impacted the last several weeks from the gun violence, so thank you for coming out tonight. I'd like to introduce the dais. On my far right is City Manager John Jennings.
Good evening.
Councilmember Albritton.
Good evening.
Vice Mayor Beckman.
Good evening.
Councilmember Bunker. Good evening. Councilmember Teixeira.
Good evening.
And our City Attorney, David Margolis.
Good evening.
I would ask Sherman Stroman to come forward from Human Resources and our Diversity Director. We have a proclamation. Whereas lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender LGBT Pride Month is celebrated nationwide each year in June, and whereas this month was chosen to commemorate the uprising that took place at the Stonewall Inn in Manhattan, New York, 52 years ago, on the morning of June 28, 1969, often viewed as the birth of the modern LGBT rights movement. And whereas it is fitting that several major United States Supreme Court decisions impacting LGBT rights in a positive way have been announced in June, including Lawrence versus Texas in 2003, U.S. versus Windsor in 2013, Oberfell versus Hodges in 2015, and Pavin versus Smith in 2017. And whereas many of the residents, students, city employees, and business owners within the city of Clearwater who contribute to the enrichment of our city are part of the LGBT community. And whereas the city of Clearwater stands with the LGBT community in the struggle to ensure equal treatment for all, and will continue to be a city where all people, regardless of their sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression, are treated with dignity and respect. Now therefore, I, Frank V. Hibbard, Mayor of the City of Clearwater, Florida, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim June 2022 to be LGBT Pride Month in Clearwater, and encourage all residents and visitors to eliminate prejudice everywhere it exists and recognize and respect those who are dedicated to providing a safe and inclusive community in Clearwater.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mayor.
Stroman. And the Vice Mayor lent me some readers because I forgot mine and this print's too small, so thank you.
Good. I looked up there, you looked real good. They suit you. If you need them the rest of the meeting.
Okay.
But no, thank you, Mayor, City Council members, Mr. John. Just being able to recognize this month as you know, to celebrate the diversity of all, and this month definitely does highlight that with this proclamation for the city of Clearwater. And we had a great flag ceremony at the MSB this weekend to kind of kick it off. So we'd just like to thank you guys for all your support, and you know, I express my esteemed gratitude to all the members of the City Council as well as City Manager John for, you know, just being able to take on this opportunity to present this. So thank you guys.
And I want to thank you, Mr. Stroman, for the Diversity Day that we also had a week ago over at the North Greenwood Center. So
Appreciate it.
a lot of work went into it, I know, so thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Next, I would ask if there are any amendments to the minutes of the May 19th, 2022 council meeting.
Move to approve the minutes as published.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. And then ask if there are any amendments to the May 16th special council meeting minutes.
Move to approve the minutes of the May 16th special council meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. At this time, I'd like to open up for citizens to be heard. If there are any citizens in the audience that would like to speak to any item that's not on the agenda, we'll open it up now. We ask you to fill out a comment card when you come to the podium, if you could just state your name for the record, and we respectfully ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. Come on up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Christopher Brzezinski. I reside at 700 Osceola Avenue. I have a whole group of us here because there seems to be some kind of anxiety issue about our neighborhood. So I would like to share a couple things with you. One, first of all, city did a great job by redoing the parking spaces at the Seminole Run. And it's busy, it's extremely busy, probably not enough parking spaces because every weekend there is trailers, cars, everything else parked all over the neighborhood. They just don't fit there. Creates, obviously, nuisance, you name it. Specifically, what goes around in our building and why all my colleagues are concerned about is the neighbor to us, the neighborhood, the little piece of land between us and Seminole. Originally, that piece of land has 5 houses on it, went through sale. There is some information available through building department, what's public information. That's what I have. I don't know how accurate is this. So what I would like to ask is if somebody can direct us with proper answers. One is there is a permit for demolition. It's not approved yet, but why am I talking about? Because big part of that permit seems to be concerned with trees, environment. Yet, at the same time, there was a building permit for a previous owner for that property, which expired last year. Normally, as far as I'm concerned, they have a expiration date for various reasons, one of them being that in that time period, things change. So if somebody want to build something else, shouldn't base it on the previous permit. Yet that permit was extended. So I'm asking what was the reason for that extension? That's one. And now, regardless who is going to do what with that property, it immediately affects us because it's right next to us. We got 7 members here, so I
Did
guess
they cede their time, Ms. Cole? They need to actually fill out cards.
Okay.
And for every person
didn't know that. Sorry.
gives, that's okay. That gives you their 3 minutes, you can get an additional minute up to 10
Per
minutes.
person, right? But they didn't fill up anything, so
Okay,
my
well,
3
can
minutes is up.
you
right?
have the 7 come up and at least get a card? Because I need you to do that, otherwise I can't give you the additional time. And then you all can fill it out, give it to the city clerk, and we'll go ahead and give you the additional minutes
Should I
while they're
continue
filling them
or
out.
should I wait?
I just need 1 card, but the individual sign that 1 card.
Everyone saying.
Yes.
Can you help me with your last name?
Brzezinski. Polish origins.
Okay, Christopher, go ahead. You've got another 7 minutes.
There you go. Appreciate it. Don't want to be specific about some of the issues because this is probably not the body that deals with it. It's more Department of Buildings and Permit Office, whatever. But generally, I kind of find it that there is whole lot of organizations that's supposed to help everybody around. Those being starting with Community Redevelopment Act that they base on it. Then there is Community Development District. There is Marina Area Master Plan. Then there is sub things like a public amenities incentive pool under one of those entities. So based on the information that we have, that building, that permit originally was scheduled for 31 units. One building with 31 living spaces. Somehow it got 21 additional spaces on that very public amenities incentive pool. I read this whole thing as much as I could to find the idea behind it. And really nothing in it struck me as something that would match that particular property for any of it, because it's supposed to, in general, expand the public enjoyment of this whole area, right? Mm-hmm. It's just the fact that the building, according to this existing plans, has zero offset. It takes the whole lot. Why is that very important? Because our building is 10 feet from our line, which means the windows of their neighbors gonna be 12 feet away from our windows. And in certain, not all of the apartments, but for instance mine, all the windows are on that side, means no privacy. I kind of assume that everybody has the right to expectancy of privacy, which means if I don't shade the windows, anybody can look on everything I do in my place. Not even talking about view or anything else. That's not pertinent, I think. So, so that's going back for a moment to the different organizations that are under the umbrella of the redevelopment and taking care of the city. I think we had a very good example how some of them don't work, and that's specifically Community Development District. And I'm sure you remember Bellagio and Venezia on the other side. That still goes on, right? And people end up paying for somebody else's mistakes. Coming back to this particular property, as it exists, there's really no parking spaces around, period. That building has zero parking assigned for utilities, fire department, deliveries, nada. There's only one entrance to their garage, not one space on the street, which is one lane going in both directions, amazingly, because North Osceola Avenue is one direction. On one block that is maybe 150 feet, it becomes two-way street. Why? I don't know. But regardless, with this number of units in that building, with the amount of space they have assigned under the building, there is still need for an additional 150 spaces just to accommodate guests, people who live there, because everybody doesn't have one car. People have more. So all that coming and going, that's going to create extreme hardship for everybody around. I don't know how to address that. Just kind of thought I'd bring it up to your attention. There was one other additional thing. As I was looking at that public amenities incentive pool, rules and regulation and guidance, there was one thing that kind of jumps at me that said that you can have additional units due to a transfer of development rights. If that's the case, in this particular case, I wonder what it was based on. Because, basically you put in 51, 52 families on less than an acre. Like I said, with 12 feet between buildings, which I cannot, for the life of me, find one instance in Florida, in Miami, in New York, anywhere I can think of, that two buildings would be that close together. Just cannot think of one instance. Yet, there was a permit issue for that. Thank you for your attention.
So you've given your card to Ms. Call
Yes.
with a phone number and an email?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Ms. Matsky's here from the planning department. I don't know if we have all the answers, obviously,
Absolutely,
for you
yeah.
tonight. We can get back to you.
Appreciate that.
Bellagio and that was a
Management.
different, that was a
No,
development.
I was just
zone.
giving it as example of
Okay.
the goodwill of people getting together, trying to accomplish something very positive,
Okay.
and then just going astray as time goes by, and that's what it was about.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Thank you.
Good evening, Lauren Matsky, Planning and Development Department. I am only generally familiar with the project that he's discussing, but I'll be happy to give him my contact information and then reach out with him and get a lot more direction to him and help explain some of it. And also I can report back and let y'all know where it is and what process,
Please.
so.
Thank you, Ms. Matsky. Anyone else for citizens to be heard?
I'm Norm Bill, Veterans Advocate. I just told my friend in Poland, good to see a neighbor. My family escaped the communists and the tyranny of Stalin. And this is a wonderful thing. Do you think this could happen under Stalin or Nazi Germany? Maybe we don't agree, but freedom of speech, beautiful thing. And 3 minutes, I don't have much time. Since COVID, everything is deconflicted. My issues are veterans. I got to take off tomorrow for Scottsdale with Navy SEALs. We have a fundraiser. Last year we raised $250,000 one night. And I'm glad to say I believe in democracy, certainly. 2 for 2. Non-disclosure. I support the mayor. I support Lena. We have a real energizer here. We talked today, and just wishing you the best. The veterans issues, we can talk about these later, but I think a lot of the socialization. We had the Suffolk, we had the Bull Simons dinner. I know you made it before, which I
I
don't
was
think any
not
other made.
invited this year, Mr. Bill.
Oh, you did?
I was not invited, so.
You should have talked to me about that. I would talk to General Clark and Chief Smith about that. Wow, I'll remember that. Well, anyway, but I invited you and Mr. Jennings to the breakfast for my friend Tyrone Adderley, who received the Will Simons Award. We can't all be in one place at one time, I know it. I won't be able to do it tomorrow. You were at a veterans breakfast. I don't know of any other mayor that did that before, Jim Rudolph. I talked to him. I believe in him so much, he's going to bury me, but not like Khrushchev. You got to be realistic. Veterans are realistic. And if we could have a veterans breakfast with Mr. Jennings, Lena, anybody, actually anybody, it's not just the leadership. All we do is we sit down and we talk, and this is very important. We want to hear what you see are the issues you see on the pyramid. Is it homelessness? What is it? Widows that can't get benefits? What is it? We want to talk about it, and we're free. we don't have much time to go. We're trying to help out anybody we can. But the important thing is coming up right here in Clearwater, 14 June, is the honor flight. I was on the last one. They're already told me I'm aging out, liability. You can't push the wheelchairs anymore. You're going to have to sit in them. So everybody's welcome. It's hundreds of people. We get together. It's festive. It's just a real patriotic thing for guys that, like myself, don't have much longer to live. And everybody's invited. We have hundreds of supporters there, and we have the Honor Guard. We have Pinellas County. We have Chief Holloway's folks there. I talked to Chief Slaughter before about getting his Honor Guard, and maybe they're predisposed, who knows. But on 14 June, anybody wants to go there, or the honor guard from Clearwater's finest, you're more than welcome. God bless America.
Thank you, Mr. Bill. Anyone else for citizens to be heard?
Thank you, sir. Hi, good evening, you guys.
Good evening.
I know you've seen me a couple times the last couple of weeks. I wanted to thank you guys for going around the city and doing the meeting and, getting feedback from citizens about the American Rescue Plan funds. And Mr. Jennings, I'm going to be emailing you. I have concerns about Crest Lake Park. I consider it my park because it's the closest one, and I played there as a kid because my grandparents lived here for so long. I really feel like they missed out when planning the children's play area. I would like to send you some photos. I was in Colorado a couple weeks ago for a couple weeks, and they had some really nice parks with some really nice playground equipment for children of all sizes. It seemed really safe and, where you could watch your kids from every angle sort of thing. So that's just something I wanted to send you. And then I had sent Mr. Horn some photos also of some nice playground equipment at Riviera Bay down in St. Petersburg. And the other thing about Crest Lake Park is I don't think there's enough shelters. There just doesn't seem to have been a lot of planning that went into families and children, which I really love the children, and I really care about, their well-being, how they have fun. When my kids were little, my husband chased the kids around the little wooden playground that used to be over there. And then the other kids wanted him to chase them, and he says, no, I don't think that's such a good idea. I'm just going to chase the kids I know. But we had a lot of fun, with our children playing in that park. And of course, when I was growing up, it was a slide that, had the metal and burned your legs and every other part of your body going down. But I would think, too, maybe a couple more shelters for when families want to have parties, birthday parties and whatnot, that y'all could think about that a little bit and maybe include some of those funds for American families. I greatly appreciate it. And I'm sorry I didn't give you my name. Yeah. Becca Kay. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, and I hope you all will consider those things. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Jennings.
Ready?
Good evening, Mayor Hibbert, council members, Mr. Jennings, Mr. Margolis, city staff. My name is Rudolph Michaelek. I live at 855 Bayway Boulevard, Clearwater Beach, also known as Clearwater Point. At the last council meeting, a decision was made to select the management vendor for Coachman Park's amphitheater. As I listened to the rationale for each council member's selection, I was surprised that only one person really delved into the financial and economic consequences that would need to be dealt with to pay for the $85 million project, which has grown over the years from around $50 million, perhaps less, in the initial phases. On behalf of the tax-paying citizens of Clearwater, thank you, Council Member Beckman, for pushing this issue front and center. Additionally, I have watched some of the past work session and see how some individuals are already trying to set up smoke screens and adjust commitments by our prior councils who drove up these costs re the amphitheater while assuring monies would be available for debt. While there are a variety of issues which will need to come together for the upcoming management agreement, Mr. Jennings and Mr. Margolis should be free to should have a free hand, that is, to hammer out the best agreement for the citizens of Clearwater without a, what was the acquisition? Oh yes, without a thumb on the scale, maybe by a council member, much less a foot on the pedal. That means a financial component as well as quality, types, numbers of events, etc., should have contractual requirements with an escape clause for non-performance of goals. Mr. Jennings, Mr. Margolis, you are two highly qualified individuals. You're new to the area without bias to lead these negotiations. For all the tax-paying citizens of Clearwater, get us the best deal, please. On another topic, at the back of the room, there is a notice of code of conduct, proper decorum during council meetings, which includes no member of the audience shall make or cause to be made audible or disturbing sounds or noises. On several occasions in the past, when disruptions happened, the mayor at the time would gavel attendants to silence and admonish them. This past council meeting, there was not one, not two, but at least 14 interruptions between presenters. According to the video, which I've listened to multiple times, you cannot detect the use of the gavel or verbal admonishments from the dais to any of those demonstrations. Hence, one must assume that the rules have changed, which are posted right back there, or B, we have a precedent of not following the rules, or C, could it be we have let people now do whatever they want if we favor them, which at the least points out a bias. I hope that today's meeting, proper decorum, will preside. Thank you. 3 minutes, wow.
Anyone else for citizens to be heard? Mr. Halubo? Not going to back cleanup?
Got an email from me.
Okay, fair enough.
I could speak about Mr. Margolis, but wouldn't it be positive?
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 6.1 through 6.6? Is there anyone from the audience that would like to remove one of the items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I move we approve consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.6.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 7.1.
Approve the substantial amendment to the City of Clearwater's fiscal year 2021-2022 annual action plan and authorize the city to modify existing agreements and enter into new agreements with organizations approved for funding.
Thank you. Chuck Lane, Economic Development and Housing Department. The city was notified last year that it would receive an allocation of home art funding from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. We are required by HUD to add these funds to our budget by processing a substantial amendment to our current year annual action plan. Use of home art funds is required to serve the qualifying population, which is defined as the homeless or people below 50% of area median income who are facing the imminent threat of becoming homeless. We can do this through certain housing programs such as rental assistance or new construction. We can also serve these clients through public service programs. The staff recommendation is to enter into contracts with 6 organizations for funding. One is for $850,000 for an affordable housing project in the city's downtown. The other 5 organizations we are proposing to fund are planning to provide various public service programs such as tenant move-in and rental assistance, utilities payment assistance, and other wraparound services aimed at helping people become stabilized. Those 5 organizations are Hope Villages of America, Pinellas Opportunity Council, Homeless Empowerment Program, Homeless Leadership Alliance, and the St. Vincent de Paul Community Kitchen and Resource Center. The substantial amendment also cleans up our CDBG, Community Development Block Grant funding budget. It increased, as you know, increased construction costs have thrown our public facilities improvement projects a little bit offline. One project was canceled. We're shifting those funds to active projects that have come in over budget. We're also shifting some funds within our public services program. And we've added 2 projects on city-owned land. We will use CDBG funds to assist the demolition of the Elks Lodge, the former Elks Lodge, which is located at 1011 Engman Street, and will provide $90,000 towards the construction of a new recreational pier in Lake Bellevue behind the Ross Norton Recreation Center. Today is the final day of a 30-day public comment period required by HUD, so With council approval, we'll submit this amendment to HUD probably next week.
Any questions for Mr. Lane? Anyone from the public to speak to item 7.1? Thank you, Mr. Lane. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 7.1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, I'm sorry.
There's no,
I thought there was an ordinance.
that's okay.
I was ahead of you guys, sorry.
Every once in a while, I run the meeting okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 7.2.
Approve the request from the owner of property address 67 Kipling Plaza, Clearwater, to vacate the 5-foot wide platted utility easement located on lots 1, 2, and 3, Block 44, Mandalay subdivision, according to the map or plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 14, page 32 through 35. Public records of Pinellas County, Florida, and pass ordinance 9579-22 on first reading.
Good evening, Elliot Schoberg, the Engineering Assistant Director. The purpose of this easement is to make room for some pavers and pool pump. There are no existing utilities in this easement, and the city has reviewed it, city staff has reviewed it, and we're okay with the vacation. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Anyone from the public to speak to this item? Mr. Margolis?
Ordinance number 9579-22, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, vacating the 5-foot wide platted utility easement located on lots 1, 2, and 3, Block 44, Mandalay Sub, according to the map or plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 14, page 32 through 35 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, providing an effective date.
I have a motion.
I'll move to approve agenda item 7.2.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 8.1. Yes, sir.
Ordinance number 9554-22, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to change the land use designation for a portion of certain real property located on the northeast corner of Gulf to Bay Boulevard and South Keystone Avenue, whose post office address is 1640 Gulf to Bay Boulevard, Clearwater, Florida, 33755, from residential office general, ROG, to commercial general, CG, providing an effective date.
Anyone to speak to item 8.1? I have a motion.
Motion to approve agenda item 8.1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 8.2.
Ordinance number 9555-22, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by rezoning a portion of certain real property located on the northeast corner of Gulf to Bay Boulevard and South Keystone Avenues. Post office address is 1640 Gulf to Bay Boulevard, Clearwater, Florida, 33755, from Office O to Commercial C, providing an effective date.
Anyone from the public to speak to this item? I have a motion.
I move to approve item 8.2.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Anyone from the public to speak to item 8.3? Do I have a motion to continue to June 16th, 2022?
Motion to move to June 16, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Anyone to speak to item 8.4? I have a motion to continue to June 16th, 2022.
I move to continue to June 16th, 2022.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Anyone to speak to item 8.5? Need a motion to continue to June 16th.
Motion to continue to June 16th, agenda item 8.5.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Anyone to speak to item 8.6? I have a motion to continue to June 16th.
I move we continue to June 16th, item 8.6.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 8.7, anyone to speak to this? We had a noticing problem, if anybody wondered why all these are being continued, so just to inform everybody. So they're all being continued to June 16th. Do I have a motion for 8.7?
Motion to continue to June 16, 2022.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Anyone to speak to 8.8? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I move to continue item 8.8 to June 16th, 2022.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 8.9, anyone to speak to that item? This is to be continued to a date uncertain, as are the next two items. Do I have a motion?
Motion to continue to a date uncertain, agenda item 8.9.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 8.10. Anyone to speak to this item? Motion?
I move to continue to a date uncertain, item 8.10.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 8.11. Anyone to speak to this item? Motion?
Move to continue to date uncertain.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Mr. Jennings, 9.1.
Thank you, Mayor. On Tuesday, I asked the city council whether you wanted to continue to move forward with the process of putting the Clearwater Gas Company out to see what we would get back from a financial offer. The reason I did that is because many of you in our one-on-ones had indicated a less interest in moving forward with that process. So instead of spending a lot of money to put the gas company out, I wanted to put that on the agenda for this past Tuesday to get a sense of the council. Mayor, I believe tonight there will be a vote as to kind of what you would like for me to do moving forward.
Well, as I said at the work session, I kind of had two threshold issues. The first was that we could get what we believed to be a reasonable price. The price that was determined by Raymond James was a fairly broad range, but I do think a fair price was within that range. The second threshold issue for me was being able to take that money and sequester it in a way that it could become a fund that could be invested and would spin off income somewhat similar to what the gas company has done over the years. And that was from the very beginning when I talked to Mr. Jennings and Mr. Margolis. Those were personally my two threshold issues. The reason I believe it would be important to sequester that money is I am very concerned if we got a lump sum like that we would spend it immediately on things, or even over a period of time, generally for bricks and mortar, which ultimately take a lot more operations and maintenance over the long haul, which then ultimately fall on the general fund and the taxpayers of the city of Clearwater. It was pointed out legally that it's really very difficult, if not impossible, to sequester that money and to invest it in a way other than in treasuries and money markets, which will not keep up with inflation. And for that reason, and the angst that has been created for the people that work within the gas department, I think it is better to end this process sooner than later. Regardless of suitors that we have, I won't support it because I don't think we can, again, sequester that money and be responsible for it over a long period of time. So for that reason, I'm ready to terminate the process. But that's just my opinion. Councilmember Albritton.
Yeah, and from the beginning, as we started discussing this, I don't have any problem with knowledge. Knowledge is power to me, but I didn't realize what kind of ripples it was gonna cause with our employees, which I regret. I really didn't have a want from the beginning to sell Clearwater Gas. I think it still has value, and I think Clearwater Gas can grow. I really do. It has not, one of the concerns was, has it reached its peak and it's going downhill? No, it's still going up. We've got years of growth still left in it. So I'll say the same thing I've said the last two meetings when we've discussed it. I have no interest in moving forward to going through this process to sell.
Councilmember Shannon.
So, not to repeat my predecessors, but just so I can move on to the next point, I was expecting, like many other big agenda items, to have feedback from the community on both sides, and I did not. What I did receive was concern and anxiety about the selling of the gas company. So at this point, I don't have any intentions to push this forward.
Councilmember Bunker?
I agree. I'm ready to call this off.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
Okay, so I've given this a lot of thought, and I think that this is not a good time to pursue this type of assessment. Instead, though, I think we should put focus on our broader responsibilities as a council, as a board of directors of a public utility. First, we should ensure that we are delivering the best rates to our consumers. One key area we can directly help and control is eliminating any gifts to elected officials from Clearwater Gas. This seems obvious to me and to many residents that we should not be taking perks from this publicly owned business where we worry about profits, we worry about employees, their security, pay, all of that. So I think that's worth a look if we're going to be really good stewards and think about that gas company and our employees. Elected officials like us, and especially as board members of a public utility, not private, not out there to make profit and return money to stockholders, should not accept gifts of any kind, including dinners and tickets to events. This is not only a matter of public trust, but the money associated with these gifts should be instead returned to employees, ratepayers, and residents. It should not go to board members of the utility. Second, we should ensure that we receive a regular assessment of not only the existing financial, health, and expenditures, but also the assessment of the future financial health of this public utility. Assessment of future financial health is extremely important given the very fast pace of change in the energy landscape and sector. As a public utility, we, the board, have this responsibility. The public relies on us for regular, transparent assessment of the health of this utility. We as a board of the public utility owe this to residents, ratepayers, and the employees of Clearwater Gas. So I'm ready to put it on hold, but we have work to do as far as to keep it healthy and to set a good example as board members in really looking out for our ratepayers and our employees and the residents of Clearwater that invest in that Clearwater Gas public utility.
I want to clarify something that you brought up because I don't want it to be misconstrued by the public. And I want people to understand that nobody on this council has ever received gifts from Clearwater Gas System. Clearwater Gas System has been a sponsor of many not-for-profit events, which many of the not-for-profits have come to us and said has damaged them to some extent. And what has come with those occasionally are galas or dinners in which that is part of the sponsorship package. And council members, city managers have attended those events based upon the sponsorship level that Clearwater Gas provided. I think that is a far different thing from perks and gifts. And I want to make that publicly known up here.
But I think if we go to a Phillies spring training game and we sit at, the opener and we sit in a box and we don't have to pay for a ticket or the food, that's a gift. I think when we get tickets to Jazz Holiday for us, how many, nights would you like to go and how many tickets would you like? That's what I call a gift when I'm not paying for it.
Well, Jazz Holiday, those are not tickets through Clearwater Gas. That is through the co-sponsorship of the fact that the city of Clearwater is the largest sponsor of Jazz Holiday. It doesn't have anything to do with Clearwater Gas.
Okay.
Just, I want to deal with facts.
Okay.
Okay?
Then I may have misspoke about Jazz Holiday, but certainly about, the Phillies skybox and stuff that I
Clearwater Gas, which is public knowledge, Clearwater Gas does have a box at Baycare Ballpark that they use to entertain prospective clients for the Clearwater Gas. And it has been tradition over the years that the Clearwater City Council does go to opening day, and we do sit in the box. Mr. Margolis, do you have anything to add on the legality of all this?
Not really.
Is there anything that has been done that is unethical?
There's certainly been nothing done that I'm aware of that's illegal, I'll put it that way. I mean, I guess I will just clarify one thing. Clearwater Gas is us. In other words, it is the city. It's not as if Clearwater Gas is a special district that's independent of the city. They're not just a subsidiary of the city. They are us. And so when Clearwater Gas pays for things, whether it's sponsorships or anything like that, it's really tantamount to the city paying for it. What does that mean from an ethics perspective? It means that any benefit that is conferred on either a council member, city manager, me, or any other reporting individual is considered for state ethics purposes a gift from the city. And that is very different than qualifying it, say, as a gift from a vendor. So it's very important for ethics purposes to distinguish who is paying for or who is absorbing the cost of that benefit, service, meal, ticket, whatever it is. There is a world of difference, ethically speaking, between the city or Clearwater Gas paying for something which is permissible versus, say, the Phillies or a city vendor paying for something which would be impermissible if the value exceeds $100. So it's really the source of the funds that makes the difference for ethics purposes, and there's nothing wrong from an ethics standpoint with Clearwater Gas or any other city funding source paying for either meals, tickets, or things of that nature.
I just wanted to make that clear. Councilmember Tejeda.
I appreciate the clarification because I don't perceive and I don't believe that I've received perks when I sat at a table for Clearwater Gas. They were sponsors of a nonprofit event, which I was a guest and was part of their package. That was my experience. And then when I'm there, I participate in the event and I donate further. So I do appreciate the clarification because I don't want any of my behavior to be in question. And I want to formalize and put that on record as well.
Councilmember Bunker.
Mr. Margolis, we talked about this a while ago, and you were talking about a different way to structure this that doesn't give an appearance. Is there any more action on that coming?
Normally, just to be clear, normally I would not publicly divulge or discuss anything that I've discussed in confidence with a council member, but only because I've been asked a direct question, I'm happy to answer in the public setting. What I have discussed is the source of funds in terms of ratepayer subsidized sources, which comes from the gas company, versus general fund sources. Generally speaking, ratepayer money should be used to advance the mission of the utility. And the gas company can use ratepayer money to advertise and to market, and that's a perfectly permissible use of ratepayer funds. However, there is a fine line, and it is important that any spending from the gas company directly advance the mission of the utility in some way. And so as long as there's a close enough tether, that's okay, but there's no doubt that the safest option, which is what we have discussed, is to use general fund. And Mr. Jennings and I have talked about that as well. I do believe, not to speak for him, but I believe that is the plan going forward for the next budget year. I do think that's the most conservative answer, is let's use general fund for things like that.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Councilmember Albrecht.
Well, this is just a comment about Clearwater Gas. It's been, it's an enterprise fund. It is a public utility, but it acts as a private. It's something that Clearwater owns that makes money for Clearwater. And we have control over trying to get our best rates we can for our customers, which that's another reason that I kind of had about not selling, because I think that we have a better control over our rates when it's us. But when I was a contractor before I became retired and came on council, I would sell a lot of gas to my remodeling customers. If they had something electric, I say, hey, you could save money by going to gas water heater and a gas stove. And I would sell a lot of gas, and the salesman would reach out to me, and sometimes I would get a perk for that, for selling so many jobs. They'd give me a seat at the Capitol Theater or something, just like any other, like a lumber company or something like that. You sell a lot of materials, but very rarely would I get that. And I just want to put that out. It's not something that they just throw out. It was very in line with all the other businesses that I dealt with. I mean, I never saw them really go overboard and be, giving too much to not only me or anybody else that was selling gas, but it gave an incentive for us to sell more. So that's just the way business is done. So.
Well, it needs to be run like a business. All of our enterprise funds need to be run like a business. And so that's also some of the direction that I want for the city manager. Mr. Jennings and then the vice mayor.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on Mr. Margolis's comments on sponsorships. Mayor, what you just said is absolutely correct. If the city council decides to keep or to abort the process of selling Clearwater gas tonight, the plan is to move forward and grow the gas company, continue to grow the gas company. But I do want to differentiate one thing on the sponsorships. There are things that are uniquely reflective of owning and growing a business that would be unique to Clearwater Gas. We cannot cut everything away on the sponsorship side of things, because those are areas in which, if you're going to run it as a business, which the plan would be, is you do have to retain some of those things to entertain customers and things like that. Now, there are many others that we will look to move into the general fund, and there will be others that we look to eliminate at some impact on community organizations. So that is, I just want to make sure that I clarified that not everything is going to be coming to the general fund, that there will be some things that are unique to the gas company.
Very good, Vice Mayor.
I think that's fine, that it certainly, we're run it as a business and it has an advertising budget. I would ask that the advertising and promotion budget is more in line with all of the other public utilities in the state and not multiple times the amount of other publicly owned utilities. So if we can get it more in line with the norm, I think that that's fair to our gas employees, it's fair to our ratepayers and our residents. So if we can have that kind of agreement on direction, that it is within the same ballpark as other public utilities, I think that's a big step forward in being accountable and transparent.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to item 9.1?
Now we're getting into the bailiwick that I'd love to talk about, business. So let me just say, first of all, I agree with you, Mayor. Your two premises that set up the conditions for even considering it are very appropriate and exactly what should be the starting point. Secondly, if we're going to run it as a business, and I only know this from reading the newspaper, we give out an exorbitant amount of money, multiple times greater than any other utility in the greater general area in terms of donations or sponsorships or whatever the labels or titles are. If we're going to move that back to the consumer, if we're going to move that to our employees, those are very appropriate places to be putting that. With regards to discussion on benefits, that's very consistent with what I heard in the work session from Mr. Margolis earlier this week as it related to the amphitheater. And I think the council should always look to the city's legal counsel to make sure that they, whatever is decided or done is within the parameters as given by the legal counsel. And that does not necessarily need to be part of the general public conversation because there is specific legal advice that's being given there. Knowing what the value of an asset is always good in terms of testing your portfolio to see what valuation this asset has for the future. Because there will come a day in the future where the market is going to be changing. I don't know when that is. I won't even begin to guess. But there will be a time when that's going to change. And that should be part of your future strategic planning look in terms of all the assets that are part of your portfolio. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Didn't announce myself again. I thought maybe you remembered me. Thank you.
Anyone else? Do I have a motion to terminate the process of potentially selling CGS?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Anything else, Mr. Jennings?
I did want to, even though it's a week out, I wanted to remind the council and the public of the Bluff property process that we are about to undergo. So the city put out an RFP, well, quasi-RFP, to developers who are interested in the possibility of developing the Bluff properties. Those submissions are due to the city next Thursday, June 9th, by 10 a.m. On Friday, June 10th, city staff will review the submissions at City Hall and go through each submission. At the same time, though, I will be sending all of that information to the members of the council so you can review, so you have as much time as possible to review the submissions. And then just to remind everyone, on Monday, June 13th at 8 a.m., the City Council will have a work session to hear the presentations of each group who submitted. And so that is the immediate process going forward for the Bluff properties. If there are any questions from the council or certainly the public, please feel free to contact me and we can move forward.
Very good. Vice Mayor?
I just had a question, clarification, John, that when we receive those proposals on that Friday, they'll be made public, they're attached to the agenda, is that correct?
Yes.
They're public record.
Given the accelerated time frame with which this will be evaluated, even though Florida law provides a 30-day window of exemption when we get these responses, we will not have time to do that. But I did think about that, and I don't see any reason for us to exercise that exemption here, even if we could. We may as well just put it out there, because the sooner the better. That way we can hear the feedback, start answering questions, and my opinion would be, let's put it out there as soon as possible.
Well, it's going to be open to the public on Monday.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
Exactly. Agreed.
Well, so therefore we will attach to the work session agenda all of the
Exhibits.
yeah.
okay. Well, we'll look forward to that. Hopefully we have some really good submissions. Anything else, Mr. Margolis?
Yes, sir.
All right, closing comments. I'm going to start on my left.
Okay, so this past Monday, I attended the Memorial Day Remembrance event at Crest Lake Park. It was truly a beautiful and heartfelt tribute. And of course, there was not a dry eye when they played that haunting Taps bugle call. I also attended the raising of the Pride flag at the MSB building this Wednesday. It will forever be etched in my mind, the look of Steve from Pro Shop. The look of joy in his face. It was long overdue, and I really enjoyed watching that community respond to that event. Last but not least, Art Alliance will be adding a art walk in downtown tour this month on June 11th. It will be a tour focusing on the final viewing of the Clean Up Clearwater exhibit in downtown. The art pieces were made from trash collected at the Ocean Allies and Clearwater collaboration with the Big City Cleanup. The tour will end at Clear Sky at 11 o'clock, where complimentary mimosas and light hors d'oeuvres will be served. Tickets are $10 in advance and $15 the day of, and you can go to www.clearwateralliance.org for tickets. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bunker.
I was tempted not to say anything tonight, which I'm sure some people would appreciate, because the news has been so horrible. It kind of it dominates everything. But I wanted to take a moment to say I agree with Rudy and Chris and others from the public who have applauded our vice mayor for her attention to detail and always looking out for the bottom line as well. When it seems hopeless, when it seems like no one's going to take action, and you're ready to throw up your arms and say, nothing can be done about it. Well, that's when we need to hear from the public to say, you can't give up. People out there need to press us to continue to take action, to make politicians across the board more responsive. So, that's all.
Vice Mayor.
Well, thank you, Mark. I just wanted to say thank you to the residents who came out to our citizen engagement meetings to give feedback about ARPA fund spending, as well as our strategic plan proposals and priorities. Thank you, too, to all of our amazing staff who attended these meetings, to the communications and IT department who put it all together. There was great unity and demonstrating to our residents that we really care when all the department heads and the firefighters, first responders, police representatives were there. It really was impressive. Thank you to our city manager, John Jennings, for making that a priority. I really applaud that citizen engagement. I was super excited, like Councilmember Teixeira, to attend the inaugural Pride flag raising event and celebration in front of our Municipal Services building yesterday. There was a great turnout, and I'm so proud and happy that we're flying that flag again for the month of June. I want to remind people to check your voter registration. You can go to votepinellas.com, encourage your friends, family, neighbors to be registered voters. We have primaries coming up in 2 months. We need all eligible residents to be active voters. That's really how our democracy works. So check your voter registration, votepinellas.com. Also, I'm super excited about our library department and our sustainability department, who have partnered to bring together this green, it's called, oh my gosh, did I not write down what it's called? Oh, Clearwater Green Guardians. It's this summer camp program where each week they focus on a topic that's related to our Green Print 2.0. And it's available to kids of all ages. So children, teens, and adults. You can register online. You can type in Clearwater Green Guardians. The first session is Tuesday on the 7th. So they're going to have topics that cover green energy, transportation, nature, water, trash, gardening, new innovations, and what the future holds for jobs related to sustainability. So I think it sounds exciting. I'm going to register for a couple of them and drop in. So just want to wish everybody a happy weekend, safe weekend, and that's all I've got.
Councilmember Albritton.
Well, the Memorial Day ceremony we had this week was nice because we had no rain. We've had rain the last couple of Memorial Veterans Days at the park, and I thank everybody that showed up because it really showed what Memorial Day is all about. The other thing I wanted to mention was the bluff development plans, the RFPs that are going to be coming up on the 13th, and John kind of stole my thunder on this, but it's really exciting. I mean, we've been through one RFP that really didn't work out. I think this is going to be different. This was going to be, we're going to get some great ideas, and I think we'll be able to make a decision on the 13th. We'll be talking about it then, and I hope everybody tunes in or comes and sees, you know, the presentations. It'll be very exciting. The only other thing I wanted to say is hurricane season has started. So this weekend, we're expecting a lot of rain coming through, so just want to let everybody know that start preparing for hurricane season and stay dry this weekend.
Thank you. I want to thank our staff again for the annual Diversity Day. They did a great job at our North Greenwood Rec Center. I want to thank the Veterans Alliance again for the Memorial Day tribute at Crest Lake. It was a good one. We hope that more people will come out to those, certainly to honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice on Memorial Day and also for our Veterans Day celebration. It means a lot to the veterans to see a good turnout to those events. Deputy Chief and I were out at the Sheraton St. Keith earlier this week, and we welcomed the International Association of Human Trafficking Investigators. They had about 500 people out there, and unfortunately, you know, human trafficking is a real thing. And if you see something suspicious, you really ought to report it to somebody, because it's happening here in the Bay Area and around the country. It really preys upon the most vulnerable in a lot of our youth. We completed our fourth strategic planning meeting last night, and ARPA funds discussion. I want to thank all the citizens that came out. If you're interested in weighing in on the ARPA funds, you can still do that online. But it is another great step towards completing our strategic plan. We do have our final CRA meeting at the North Greenwood Rec Center coming up at 6:30 to 8 o'clock on June 13th. That's going to be a busy day, but we invite everybody to come out to that. Until then, we are adjourned. God bless.